Describing Gauteng, it certainly is a vibrant province to live in. It really is. But let's break away from the hustle and bustle of the inner cities of Joburg, where I suppose one could say everything does happen, the financial capital. And let's move to one of the hidden gems where we're broadcasting from this morning. You know, we're trying to go to all of the smaller towns within South Africa just to show you what they are, what it's like here, what it's like for the people living here, and also just to uncover some of the issues that perhaps are not really spoken about. But before we talk about issues, let's talk about the town we're in, and that is Cullinan. For those of you that have come here and visited this little town, it's absolutely beautiful, and it must be one of the most well-preserved towns within Gauteng. If you haven't visited it, I think it is definitely well worth coming here, whether it be for the day or spending the weekend or just coming overnight. I know that there's a train that comes here as well, so it's a nice treat for the kids to come down here on the train for the day at certain times of the year. But let's talk a little bit more about the history of Cullinan. I suppose the biggest thing we need to know about it is that the biggest diamond in the world was found back here in 1906, 3,106 carats. Can you imagine that? That's just ridiculous. I can't even imagine it. But somebody who doesn't need to imagine it, who knows all about this and the history of the town, David Alderson, it's so good to have you on the program, and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
So the biggest diamond in the world was found here back in 1906?
1906 it was found here. Yeah. Yes, it was actually found by Fred Wells and his team. They found it inside a mine. It was about 12 yards in those days below the surface. It was located by a member of his staff who reported it to him, but Fred Wells and his staff got the acclaim for finding that diamond.
Wow. 3,106 carats. That's insane. What happened thereafter?
Well, after that, the mine actually continued to operate. But if I can just mention about diamonds, there were many more luxury diamonds found, but they never managed to find another one of that size of 3,100 carats. Mainly because of modern mechanization and blasts and machinery and things like that. They've never really been able to find one of that size. Yeah. We have had since then, we've had about 10 diamonds that we know of more than 300 carats, which is only 10% of the 3,100 carat diamond found. A lot of them have been used, they've all been given special names, and up through between the 1950s and the 1980s, I think there were about 15 large diamonds found. The one which is actually very significant was bought by Richard Burton for Elizabeth Taylor. When he got married. He was up in Botswana on holiday. He bought it from here, and that one was only about 700 carats. But
only 700 carats. You say that so easily.
That was only 700 carats. As I said, the ones we all remember, and they've got special names now, they're the ones normally more than 400 or 500 carats each.
Wow. Well, what about the Golden Jubilee?
The Golden Jubilee diamond was found in 1986. Yeah? That one was about 350 carats, okay. And that was actually found the year when I first arrived in town here. It was great. It was actually a second big diamond, also found in 1986, also with its own special name.
Yeah. Oh, it's just amazing. I mean, when you look back at the history of this, we kind of forget, don't we, where we're all coming from and why we're all here, really. Because, I mean, it was the diamond mining that brought everybody here to this town, the diamond and the gold mining, not to this town, but to this province. Looking back over the 20 years of democracy, because that's really something we're trying to focus on, and particularly in Cullinan, how has this town evolved and changed?
Okay, what I can actually mention there is that when these cottages on the side here, these were all basically used as miners' cottages. And eventually in about the 70s, they became homes for pensioners, people who had worked on the mine with their wives, and they retired here. It became like a pensioners' area. Yeah. And about 10 years later, in the 80s, they actually became marketed out by the mine. All the property belongs to the mine now, and they're marketed out as restaurants. So from having one tourism group before and one restaurant, we now have 4 different tourism groups, independent ones. And we also have a lot of jewelry shops here. We have art studios here. We have a lot of restaurants. So this is actually the place to be. This is the hub of existence around here.
And a sweet shop that I have been instructed by my 4-year-old son to buy him a piece of licorice from. I have to go there just now. They have like a foot-long licorice. Just finally, the main form of employment here, is it in the mining? Is it mining? That's the most, I suppose, form of employment here.
If I can actually explain to you what originally happened when the mine started here, the mine, Premier Diamond Mine of the Transvaal, as it was known then, they owned the entire town completely. There were about 500 houses here. These were the original cottages, but eventually the mine expanded. They built the school. All the property there belonged to the mine, basically. The hospital was around the corner here. They built the post office, they built the chemist. So basically, they had a whole section of cooperative stores, which was the barber, the hairdresser, the butcher, the baker, all these things like that. But now recently, I think it was around about 95 when De Beers subdivided the town and all the properties were sold to the employees of the mine. I'm very lucky. I've got a lovely 1920 house in town here. And all these little cottages over here, these became private restaurants. And we've also got a lot of artists here, so a lot of highly skilled people working from these little offices around the corner here.
Fantastic. Thank you for talking to us. Just to give us a little bit of perspective of where we're standing and the background of this area. This was David Alderson talking to us about the history of Cullinan, where we are, where we're broadcasting from, and where the world's biggest diamond was found. I'm going to ask you off air where the diamond is being kept now, and then we'll tell viewers a bit later on. All right, let's go back to the Joburg.